Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find my co-host, Dale, over on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. Dale, how's it going today?
Hey, it is going great. So how are you doing?
Not too bad. Problem with having kids, starting to feel a little run down. They got the flus and the colds and all that crap running around, but it is what it is. Just powering through, pumping out more content here, Before we get into it, we've been pushing out a lot of content. So if you're a fan, please subscribe to the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, anything you can. Podcast is available on YouTube. That's what the main place we're trying to drive people. So if you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be appreciated. But yeah, it's available on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm sure it's there. So thank you for all the love you guys give us. We appreciate it. Now, if you've been following this week, we started the week off with our top 12 I guess my top 12. I'll put it there. I won't give you the Hendon Hooker love yet, even though it's starting to build. It's starting to get up there. But I put out my top 12 overall rankings this week, and we kind of broke that down on Monday. Tuesday, we kind of talked about what the first round picks are worth. Yesterday, we talked about the second round, the 13 through 24 players there. And today we're going to talk about what some of those second round picks are worth. Who could you get for a second round pick, or who would you give up for a second round pick kind of thing. So that said, any thoughts before we get into it? Big news from Sean Payton.
Yes. I am very excited for Sean Payton, and I really think the Saints got a good deal for him, honestly. First and a second.
I thought all the people complaining about that trade are crazy. Sean Payton was under contract until 2025. So if you wanted him, you had to wait until 2025 to get him. So the way it works, for everyone not aware, coaches, they're only under contract until the contract expires. Players, they have your rights forever until you finish your contract out. For coaches, it's a limited window until those expire. So Sean Payton, if he didn't want to coach for the Saints, which it sounded like he didn't, would have had to sit on the sidelines until 2025. Well, Denver cannot wait that long, and I don't believe all this DeMeco Ryans crap.
Yeah.
There's no way they were going hard in the paint for DeMeco Ryans.
I don't think so either.
No way. That's a bunch of media-driven garbage. So
yes, I agree.
Another big news today, too. So real quick on the Sean Payton, I'll finish my thoughts. I'm jumping all over the place here. But no, I thought it was a worthwhile trade to get a guy that is a Hall of Fame coach. He's a good coach. It's the 29th overall pick in the first round. Who cares? Who cares? Yep. I agree. You have a higher chance of busting on that pick than you do on the coach. So just go get a known coach. Whatever. All right, so the other big news, Tom Brady retired, so that was kind of big. Supposedly for good this time, but yeah, he's probably done. Yeah, I think he's done.
I think he is too, but I won't count him out until it's week 1 and he's not playing. I'm just being honest.
Yep. No, I get it. So we'll see if he's actually done now for good, but yeah, respect to the GOAT, Patriots fan, so he was with us for a long time. I'm really hoping when he's in the Hall of Fame here in about 5 years, 2028, he retires as a Patriot, but we'll see.
He really should, but I can really see him trying to stick it to Robert Kraft.
No, he was at Robert Kraft's 15th wedding or whatever. No way. We'll see if Bill Belichick's still coaching that. Boy, maybe he would. But
Exactly.
All right. So enough on the news here. We're going to jump into the players here. So all in all, for the most part, like we said, there is the second round picks. You can kind of see them here at the bottom. We're going to go through some guys, and if you listen to our first, this is the first time we've ever done this. So the format is a little rough, trying to figure out how to explain the format here. So I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think the easiest way to kind of describe the format here for the second round, picks 1 through 3 in the second, so 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. That kind of feels like its own tier here of guys that I would be happy getting any of those guys in that tier. 4 through probably 8, probably 8 in this one. That seems like a second tier here, and then 9 through 12, it's a last tier. So we're going to talk about mid, early, and late second round pick. So when we talk about some of these guys, if I say who are you willing to take for a mid, second, we'll just give some guys that way. So that way we kind of group them into buckets a little bit more. So it'll be a little bit easier to kind of group these guys together. So starting with quarterbacks, we'll exclude some of the guys we talked about last time. Trey Lance, I think we agreed upon being a first round pick. He should be late first.
Yeah, should. Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, Russ, those guys, Matt Stafford. Derek Carr, early first or early second, would you be willing to give up an early second for Carr in Superflex?
I would probably. He would be a fringe
mid early.
Yeah. I would feel more comfortable with a mid, but I would be okay giving up a early second.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. What about Aaron Rodgers? He's the interesting one, right? Because he has the potential. He's basically a jet. Like everything is revolving around him being a jet.
Just pointing that way.
Yeah.
No,
so
I 100% agree with that.
Aaron Rodgers 1 year with the Jets, maybe 2, mid or late second. I'm leaning late. Like as good as he is, it's a sunk cost at this point,
Yes.
The upside is very limited. And if he goes to the Jets and just doesn't have a good year, like let's say he actually is done, because he is 39. Like remember that. I know Tom Brady being 45 has warped everyone's perception, but
it has, definitely.
39. Look at Matt Ryan, for example. Matt Ryan has been cooked for like 2 years, and he's only 37. He's 8 years younger than Tom Brady. So they do not last that long.
Right. Well, I think with that, like, I mean, would you rather have Hutchinson or Rodgers?
Xavier?
Yeah.
Probably Xavier Hutchinson. Landing spot unknown. It's a little tough, but yeah, probably. Yeah. I'd probably rather have Rodgers than Washington, Parker Washington.
Yeah.
I guess Washington and Washington there. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Darnell or Parker Washington. And then Stetson Bennett. So, yeah, I'd rather have Rodgers there, but, I'd probably rather have a Tank Bigsby, a Jalen Hyatt than Rodgers at this point in time, just for the upside there. Daniel Jones, I think we agreed he should be late first, I think.
Yes.
Feels kind of gross, but
it does.
He's young.
It really does, but he's played himself into a good spot, and I really think he's going to resign with the Giants. So
I agree.
I think that's a slam dunk spot for him, and if he is there, I think he's going to do what he did this year compared to in years past.
Yeah,
so,
they're going to get him a receiver,
think,
for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So,
all right, Kenny Pickett, early first or early or mid? I'm biased, so I'd probably say late. Like I just do not like Kenny Pickett.
I mean, I
don't know.
I think, I don't really like Pickett either, but I think I would compare him to quarterbacks in this draft, and
I'd rather have Will Levis, to be honest with you. At least there's upside with Will Levis. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yes. Yeah. No, I agree with that. So yeah, I would probably put.
There's probably more upside with Stetson Bennett.
I think
he's at least more accurate with good size hands.
That's true, but I think. Well, I know Kenny Pickett's going to start. So that's where I'm.
Maybe.
Well,
dude, Kenny Pickett was so bad. Did you see his stats from this last year?
It was probably like 7 touchdowt, 9 picks or something like that.
I think it was right around there. It was terrible.
Yeah.
2,400 yards.
But I will say that I think we've been spoiled by rookie quarterbacks in the past, 5-10 years. In that they've all done pretty well. Fairly well, and have played most of the year. And Kenny Pickett was injured. He had a lot of,
but he also sucks.
I know.
That's kind of a big indicator of success there. But no, I feel it. So I'd probably say mid-second for Pickett.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
If you can get Pickett for a mid-second, I'd be willing to pull that trigger. But I'm not loving it. I'm
not either. No, I agree.
It's one of those ones where it's just you got to close your eyes and pull.
Yeah.
But Mac Jones. So Mac Jones is someone I wanted to talk about real quick here. Geno Smith is another guy. I think early second. I like Geno Smith. He's still young enough. I think
agree.
that
Yep.
we've shown enough in Seattle to see a resurgence in his career. So
Yes.
I'd be willing to spend an early second on Geno Smith, especially if I was quarterback needy. Mac
Yeah.
Jones, I lean towards early second on Mac Jones. And I get it. It was a down year for him. He
Uh-huh.
was the best rookie quarterback last year. So keep that
Yeah.
in mind. And I understand that Mac Jones doesn't have all the upside of some of the other guys here, but we have to take this year with a grain of salt because Matt Patricia and Joe
Yes.
Judge are a dumpster fire. Those guys are idiots.
Garbage.
Like,
Flaming dumpster fire.
yeah, I mean, Matt Patricia was decent on defense under Bill Belichick. So
Yes.
what does that tell you? He's not very good. Like
Yeah.
he's
No,
not.
I agree.
He was terrible in Detroit,
Yes.
and we expected him to come in and call an offense. Like, what was that? So now we have Bill
I know.
O'Brien. I almost lean towards Mac Jones should be a first round pick still as a third year player. He's being pretty highly disregarded, but I almost think he should be worth a first just because of the youth and the Bill Belichick is not like your current coaches. If he has a
Right.
bad game, he's not going to bench Mac Jones. He's not going to do it. He's going to work it
Right.
through
Right.
with him. He's going to expect him to
Yeah.
get better, and he's going to just keep playing him. So, he's going to respect Mac Jones. He's not going to do what they've done to Zach Wilson or some
Yes.
of these
No,
other guys.
I
So
agree. But I mean, at a first round, I think I think as Mac Jones' value right now, I think a early second is very appropriate for him.
if you can get,
You
I think
know,
he's going to rebound like
yeah,
crazy.
yes,
So he'd be a steal right now.
I think I think he will, because I trust Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
I think he knows how to run an offense.
Yep.
I don't trust him to trust my uh to run my team, but I
Hey,
will
he's
definitely trust
good.
him
Just
to,
don't let him pick skill players.
or just don't let him trade your star receiver.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
but that's beside the point. So I would think like the 201 would be a good. I mean,
I agree. I
I
agree.
think, yeah, I think that's a very fair point for a very fair spot for
Only
me.
for and this is all for Superflex too. So
Yes, yes,
take
yes,
that with a grain of
yes.
salt. All right, so a couple more names here at the quarterback position. I want to rattle off here that are interesting at least. So Zach Wilson, Brock Purdy, Desmond Ritter, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jordan Love. Those are the last guys I really want to talk about here. Let's see. So the first one, Zach Wilson. What to do with Zach Wilson right now? We're talking about how Aaron Rodgers is basically a jet.
Uh-huh.
The problem is, even if they
Yes.
keep Zach Wilson and he sits behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, right? He
Mhm.
has so much talent. I believe in Zach Wilson, the talent. Can he put it together mentally? That's the question. Does sitting behind
I
Aaron Rodgers for a year help?
Yeah.
I believe it does.
It
But
does.
can
It doesn't hurt.
does that fan base ever take him back? Ever? I
No.
don't
No.
think so. So
No.
that's the problem with Zach Wilson. I don't think until he leaves the Jets, he has a real chance to do anything.
Yep. Yep.
And that's where it gets sketchy. So, if you wanted to take a stab at Zach Wilson, let's say you wanted to buy Zach Wilson, mid-second is probably the highest I'd be willing to go because
Yeah.
I believe he has the chance to rebound. Worst case scenario, he doesn't play this year and he sits behind Aaron Rodgers and he spikes next year, with all the hype. Oh, we learned from Aaron, blah, 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 So mid-second, that's about all I'd be willing. If I have Zach Wilson, I'm probably holding for a high second,
Yep.
like a Will Levis type of potential just for the upside.
Mhm.
But other than that, I'm kind of holding there.
Yeah, I think if you have him, I'm holding him.
Yeah.
I don't think he has hardly any value, and I think
It's
I
very
kind of view
low.
him like I kind of view him like Sam Darnold a couple years ago.
Yeah. At least Sam Darnold was
That
starting though. That's the difference, like
Yes,
potentially.
yes, yes, and I find that I think Sam Darnold's more talented than Zach Wilson personally, at least arm talent wise, and
I would
at least that's
disagree,
me.
but it's
That's
close
fair.
at least.
That's fair.
It's
Yeah,
close.
it is close. It is
I feel
close,
bad
but
for all these rookies that have to come into the the AFC East, and like you have to play
Yes.
twice against Bill Belichick, who's just gonna
Yes.
abuse you,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and the
It's
Bills.
horrible. I do not
Like this is
and the
a
Bills.
terrible developmental
Yes.
division. Like everybody should have to go
Absolutely.
play in like the NFC South to
NFC
learn.
South. Yes.
Like
That would be fantastic.
develop
So,
everybody in the
um,
NFC South.
right, right. So,
Go
um,
ahead.
so, so I think out of the quarterbacks you listed, I really like Jordan Love.
Jordan Love's the most
Um,
interesting one. So okay,
yes,
so let's
yes,
talk on him
he's
real
very
quick.
interesting of those. Yeah.
We both believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet, right?
Mhm.
So Jordan
Yep.
Love, where if Aaron Rodgers is a Jet, the Packers are in financial ruins for a little while here, at least
Yep.
for a season till
Yeah.
2024. Which means Jordan Love will be the starter an entire year, which means you're
Yep.
going to have a full year sample size on him to know if he's good or
Mhm.
not. I believe in
Yes.
Jordan Love. I like
I
Jordan
I
Love.
agree. Yes.
So if you can get Jordan Love, I'd be willing to even go up to the 201 on Jordan Love. I
Mhm.
would personally. I don't think you're going to have to
I agree.
spend that on him.
Yep.
I think if you
I
can get
agree.
him for a high second, I would do it. But just because if he hits, you know,
He's gonna hit. Yes. Yeah.
his value is going to
I
spike
agree.
through the moon. His value is going
I
to
agree.
spike as soon as Aaron Rodgers gets traded. That is when Jordan Love is going to be. So buy now while you can. Like
Yes.
if
No,
you can get him, go ahead.
yes.
Sorry, I've been.
I know. I was supposed to say I 100% agree with that. I think he's going to bode well in in the Flores offense. And we saw glimpses of that this year where like he played in in I mean, I know he played in garbage time,
Mm-hmm.
but still like he had really good zip to the ball. He was getting the ball well
He
to the
looked
receivers.
he looked really
He
bad in one
he
game where he
in one
played
game.
Steve
Yes.
Spagnuolo in the Chiefs, who blitzed him
Right.
50%
All the time.
of the plays. 50% he was pressured. And he started the practice on a Friday for a game on Sunday, and he didn't have Devontae Adams. Like, what did people expect to happen? What? Tell me, please. Like, he was set up to fail in that game, and people were
Yes.
like, oh, he's a
I agree.
bust. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Great analysis, everybody.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be fine. I think I would get him now before. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yep.
yeah. I would. If you're quarterback needy, like I would get him, and I
I've
think
been trying to
he's
get him
a.
everywhere.
Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say he's
I already
a
had him in a
shoe-in
lot of places,
starter.
to be fair.
Right, right. I wouldn't say he's gonna be a shoe-in starter in your lineup, but I think
Hmm.
he's gonna be.
He
I think
he
he's gonna
he could be solid.
be. Yes, yes. Very, very a very solid floor.
Yep. Yep, I'm with you. And he has mobility too. Like people underrate
Yes,
that for Jordan
I know
Love.
that.
So, last two guys. So, Desmond Ritter, he's worth noting here because I don't. If you have followed any of the mock drafts, and I know it's mock draft season, and we're gonna hot takes and blah blah blah. Nobody has Atlanta taking a quarterback. Like nobody.
Right.
Which means that everyone sort of believes that they're going to be riding with Desmond Ritter here for at least one
Mhm.
more year. And if they suck, they're going to go get Caleb Williams or, Drake May or one of these other guys
Whoever.
next year.
Yep.
And they're going to give Desmond Ritter a real chance to succeed. Now, what is Desmond Ritter worth? So if you had him, what are you selling him for?
I think I would be happy getting a mid-second for him.
I'm
Like
probably
a like
holding.
yeah, I mean, I would hold him, but I would say, like, if I got the 2-3 and I would think in most super flex leagues, that's around like, you probably drafted him in the early mid-second
I think he was actually
last year.
closer to the late second
The
or
late
mid.
second,
So,
okay.
you're kind of just
Okay.
deferring a year.
Basically.
I would
Yeah.
probably hold him,
Yeah.
If I had him, I would hold and see what he can
Yep.
do. He started to look
Yep.
a lot better at the end of the year. Didn't have Kyle
Yep.
Pitts. It was an offense that, was not
Was
great,
was
just to put
was
it
pretty
lightly.
garbage, yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So I believe that they're going to try and utilize some more of the passing game this upcoming year.
Yes.
Marcus Mariota could not throw the ball. They were like financially crippled by trading Matt Ryan. So there's going to be a lot more flexibility this year, and they might. There's a very real chance that they take Bijan Robinson in the first round. So,
I wouldn't be shocked.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would not be shocked either.
I would not be shocked.
So, there's a lot of potential here for Desmond Ridder to have a very good offensive group around him, and I would like to
I
see what
agree.
he can do. If you're buying Desmond Ridder, I'd probably, like you said, a mid-second. If you can get him for a mid-second, I think it's worth it.
Yep.
The quarterback's in that
Yep.
range. Now, you might be able to get a Hendon Hooker again in real life. Go
That's
Hendon
true.
Hooker.
That's true.
Go Hendon Hooker. I'm telling you now. But if Hendon Hooker's already off the board, use a mid-second on Ridder.
Right.
And then the last guy is Purdy. The injury sucks. He's very young.
I think the injury, and I think Tom retiring is big news for him, actually.
It's actually
in
bigger
all
news
honesty.
for I think it's bigger
Trey
news for
Lance.
Trey Lance, because that means that they're not
Yeah,
going to
I
trade
agree.
him. There's no world, because they came out today and said Jimmy Garoppolo's gone.
Yep, I heard that.
Brady's gone, and Purdy's out for 6 months to a
6
year.
months. Yep.
So that means it's Trey Lance, and they're probably going to draft a backup for him this year, or sign a backup for him.
Yeah.
So Brock Purdy, I'd be willing to give up a late second for Brock Purdy just as a chance to stash, because he was so good this stretch run, and it is kind of funny in the NFC Championship game. Oh, everybody said, oh yeah, your grandma could run the Shanahan offense, and it was not true. It was not true. So the fact that he did look so good, even though it is an easier offense, does say something to his talent and his ability.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I'd be willing to grab him in case there's the world that he ever gets the starter's job again.
Right.
One bad season from Trey Lance, and they could just completely can him and go to Brock Purdy in the future. So
Purdy. Yep.
late second, it's worth a stash. Injury to Trey Lance, and you got a potential starter there. Now, you're probably going to be sitting on him for the entire 2023 season, so, maybe you try and leverage that into a third instead, but just kind of what we're thinking there. All right, let's jump over to the running backs real quick. All right, so guys, you would be willing to give a high second-round pick on Aaron Jones, Damian Pierce, Alvin Kamara, Miles Sanders, A.J. Dillon, David Montgomery. All those guys kind of fall in that category, that bucket.
Yep.
The one here is Aaron Jones. It's kind of tough here. Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. I'm probably not buying these guys at any cost. Like, I'd probably be selling them for that. If you can sell them for a first, get a first for them. But
absolutely,
I'd probably be selling them for the highest second you could possibly get, just because Alvin Kamara is going to miss time. He does not appear to be part of the game plan in New Orleans. And, Aaron Jones is Aaron Rodgers' best friend. I don't think that if Jordan Love comes in, he's going to dump it down to Aaron Jones like he has been, he's been a beneficiary of with Aaron Rodgers. So, those two I'd probably be selling at all costs. The one here that's kind of very interesting is Miles Sanders. I know he's going to be a free agent.
Yes.
But he's so good, man, and it's just it's been unfortunate his career in Philly, but what could have been, and I think he's going to go somewhere to be a competitor, and we'll see where he goes.
I think with Sanders, his whole his collegiate and pro career has always been what if, because he came in as a as a 5-star prospect. He came into the guy he was going to be the guy, and then Saquon came in at Penn State, and then he's at Philly, and then he has Jalen Hurts hawking all of his touchdowns.
I know.
And in all honesty, well, it's him and Bart Scott and whoever.
Boston Scott and freaking Kenny Gainwell.
Boston
It's just
Scott's
like the committee from hell.
So it is. So his value, I think, if he stays in Philly, his value is very similar to what it was this year. But if he goes somewhere, it could change things.
Yeah. Damian Pierce, I know not a lot of people are a big fan, but if you can get Damian Pierce for a high second, that's a steal all day. I like the talent there a lot. I think he's probably worth a first, to be honest with you. I like Damian Pierce more than Zach Charbonnet, and I'm a big Zach Charbonnet guy, but Damian Pierce feels like one of the safer guys with all these guys we just talked about. There's so many free agents right now. Like Miles Sanders, David Montgomery are both free agents. We have no idea what's going to happen with them. Antonio Gibson, like there's a lot of guys that could be on the move this offseason, and
Yeah.
it's very scary to kind of rely on these guys versus Dameon Pierce, who we know he's 1 year in to a 4-year
Yeah.
contract with Houston, and he's gonna earn all
Right.
4 years. So
Yeah.
Dameon Pierce is a
Well,
great grab there.
I'll say with Pierce, I know I said this last time. I'm out on Pierce.
Hmm.
In my head, I view him a lot like James Robinson in that I know their draft value was different because Robinson was an undrafted free agent, but I kind of view them similarly because they were a product of their environment.
Yeah, but they did just get
And
a second
I
or a
know,
defensive minded head coach.
I
So
know, but I mean, I think I might be more in on
from
Pierce
San
once.
Fran.
I know, and I don't disagree with that. I think I would be more on Pierce once the draft comes and they don't draft a running back.
They're probably going to
So,
draft one though. I mean, the backup to
well,
Dameon Pierce is Rex
I'm saying
Burkhead. Like they're going to bring somebody
I'm
in.
I know that, but I'm saying one with more draft capital than
Yeah,
a fourth rounder. You
I'm
know?
not. I
Yeah,
don't see it. Like I never understood this
right.
argument from people. Like, oh, they're just going to bring in a guy. He was a 3rd-round pick.
I
Why
know.
squander that? You got a good
Yep.
guy. Like, yeah, you can probably bring someone in the
Well,
5th, 6th, 7th round. Sure, that's
well,
fine. But like, why spend another like the whole point of fading the running back position is you're spending a less valuable asset to get a less valuable asset, right? Like you're fading
um,
because the running back position is so replaceable and everything like that. These
mhm,
guys are fading the position now. Okay, so you faded the position, you hit on the pick. Why would you then undercut that by drafting a high guy? Like that's what doesn't make sense to me. Like you faded it, you
yeah,
were rewarded for doing good process. So why would you undercut it by not doing good process? You know what I mean? Like that's where
yeah,
it's never made sense to me. But yeah, we'll see what the draft holds for him. But
mhm.
I like yeah, if you can get him for a second, early second,
Oh,
buy it.
yeah,
Buy.
yeah.
A couple other guys here: Rashad White, James Cook, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson. Are we? Cam Akers is the toughest one here. I still like Cam Akers a lot. I think that if you can get
I
him for a
agree.
second, an early second, realistically, you could probably get Cam Akers for a mid second.
Yeah, you probably
And
could.
I
I
think
agree
he
with
has
that.
so much bounce back rebound potential.
Mm,
James Cook, I really don't see the upside there. I get it, but they're going to bring somebody in. They've been doing it. Everyone's mocking them to trade up for Bijan Robinson. Like, they're not. Devin Singletary's a free agent, and they're just going to bring someone else in to give the exact same
yeah,
workload. Buffalo cannot be trusted on the ground. They just cannot at this point in
yep,
time.
I agree.
Rashad White, the problem is, what is Tampa going to do? Like, they
I
need to blow it
agree,
up.
yeah.
They're over
I
salary cap. No more
yeah,
Brady. It's an
yep,
expensive roster. It's all old too, so they need to
yeah, it's
do like
old.
a rebuild. So if that's the case, what does Rashad White kind of look like? Where would you be comfortable taking him?
Um, I mean, honestly, I honestly think if they blow up the roster that they're probably gonna trade, like Mike Evans, they might trade
Yeah,
Chris Godwin,
yeah. I could.
and
Yeah,
that's
yep.
gonna and that's gonna free up a lot of targets to him. And,
Possibly,
so
but who's the
I think
quarterback? That's the other biggest question, right?
I I
I think
think
it's gonna be
Jimmy G is gonna
Garoppolo.
go to. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, I think it's gonna be Jimmy G, and I think he's gonna drop it off to
or Carr.
White,
Could be
or
Carr.
Carr. Yeah, either one. I think it's gonna be a cheap vet,
Yeah. At least
a
Jimmy, you don't have
cheaper
to
vet.
trade for, I guess. But
Yes, yes. So, I like Rashad White. I think he has really good upside, and I think he played a lot better than Leonard Fournette did last year, even though where they were trying to save for playoff Lenny,
mhm.
but that never really came to fruition. So,
So you're saying you'd spend a high second on him?
I would be comfortable with the mid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's where you're kind of looking like Sean Tucker or Rashad White. I
Yeah. Yep.
probably
Yep.
prefer
Yep.
Tucker,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
it's close at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gibson, Gibson is another guy I think has a lot of potential. It sounds like the Commanders are bringing in Anthony Lynn as their new OC, which means good things for Antonio Gibson if he were to come in, and Brian Robinson. So that would actually be good for these two guys. But yeah, I think if you can get a late second for Gibson or give up a late second for Gibson, I'd be comfortable there. Fournette, same thing. James Conner. This is where it's tough, right? Because Fournette and Connor, they're probably going to outproduce that draft capital, but they're so old that it's like the value matrix, right? Like,
yes.
Same with Zeke, right? That's another one there.
I was about to ask you about Zeke and how you feel about him.
Late second, that's all I'm willing, because it's just limited upside, for limited amount of time. Although Zeke's under contract till he's like 50, so you should be right.
I know. Well, I think with Zeke though is that that we know he's going to have the touchdown upside.
Yep.
So
there's that, and there is the chance that Pollard is on a different team.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I think he's going to stay with the Cowboys since he had that injury.
Maybe we will see.
Unfortunately,
we will see for sure. A couple other names here. So Brian Robinson, we touched on him a little bit. If you can get Brian Robinson for a mid-second, it's about a wash. I think he was like an early third last year, so it's not much more investment. And he looks pretty good. Like, I get it. He wasn't elite, but he did also get shot twice or whatever before the start of the season. My favorite offseason acquisition here from the running backs is Khalil Herbert for a late second. If you can get him, you might even be able to get Khalil Herbert for a third. But he is one of my favorite
I would
ads.
definitely. Yeah, I would definitely do that. Yes.
Him and Tyler Algier, I think those two are just primed for a massive workload. Excuse me. But if you can get one of those two guys for a late second or an early third, I would 100% be all over that, because there is a real chance, like, let's say Atlanta doesn't get Bijan Robinson. Tyler Algier looked really good at the end of the season, and they could just, like I said, lean on that run game again and just really kind of give it to Algier. Cordero Patterson is another year older. He's like, what, 32 now, I think?
At least.
I don't even know where he is. He'll be 32. So, you're not going to live forever at the running back position. All right, wide receivers here. A couple guys we would talk about in the second round. Jahan Dotson, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Rashad Bateman, Christian Kirk. Those are all guys I'd be willing to spend a high second on.
Yep.
Mid second, we'll touch on. There's just so many dang wide receivers. It's ridiculous.
There are.
There's 28 wide receivers I'd be willing to spend a first rounder on in this year's draft class, at least a first on. But that's just crazy. Calvin Ridley, where do you think he lines up value wise? Like, what do you think you need to give up to get Calvin Ridley?
He's extremely tricky. I feel after Trevor's performance against the Chargers that a lot of people were thinking that they were going to get like a late first for him. Honestly, but I think a mid-second would be appropriate, because I think Ridley's going to be 28, 29 this year.
He'll be 29,
yeah. He's coming off a year off of football.
Yep.
And he hasn't been around the game.
He could be. Oh my gosh, he could be the elite option though. You know what I mean? He could 100% return on that.
He very well could be, but he could also be a utter bust that's not even worth your time. So
possible.
It is possible. So, I think if you can get him for like a mid-second, that would I feel that's very fair value for him.
That.
Yes, I would be very happy with that. So I wouldn't want to go into the early first, because I think I could get better value. But I mean, I think a mid's good.
All right, so some other guys here that I think are worth mid-seconds: Juju, Keenan Allen, Alec Pierce. Late second probably for him. I don't think you need to invest much. He didn't show much at all. He showed flashes, and they need to get the quarterback situation figured out there in the coaching situation. And I think that there's a lot of potential for Alec Pierce, but until they get the quarterback, it's kind of you might be able to get a massive discount on him and Pittman right now, just until they get that figured out. Tyler Lockett, based on age, I'd probably give a mid-second. I think he's going to
Mhm.
overproduce on that value yet
Yep.
again.
He will. Yep.
Elijah Moore, I'd be willing to give a mid-second. Not probably a late
Yeah.
second on him. I
Late,
just don't
yeah.
trust him. Bateman, we said early
He
second on him, right?
Yeah, yep. Yep.
Sky Moore, if you can get a Sky Moore for a
Mid I was about
mid-second,
to say mid. I was about to say, like,
he's the tough
I
one, right? But if you
yes.
get him for a mid-second, you're definitely making out on what his cost was.
Mhm.
Like you're taking
Yeah,
advantage of that.
yes.
One of the best strategies you can do for wide receivers is buy year 2 wide receivers on guys that did not blow up in year
Yep,
1.
yep.
Romeo Dobbs is another one here. They just
Mhm.
people want results now, and if they don't get it,
Yeah.
they throw a tantrum and they sell these guys for pennies on the dollar.
Nothing,
So
nothing, yeah.
yeah, so if you can get either one of those guys for a mid-second, I think that's a pretty good investment. I mean, they're both 22 years old. There's a lot of upside there for those guys.
Mhm.
A few guys. DJ Chark is the other one I wanted to mention here. I love DJ Chark, and he looks so good. I know
I
he
know
missed a
you
chunk of
do.
time with injury.
I
I
know
get
you
it.
love GJ Chark.
He missed a decent amount of time with injury. I understand that, but
Yep,
he was
yep.
so good when he was on the field. Like so good. Like do you realize what his points were? Like it was incredible.
Right. No, and I get that, but I think with a healthy Jameson Williams and a healthy DeAndre Swift, I think that's gonna take a
I
little
don't
bit
even think
away
he's
from
back
that, but
but he's a free agent. He doesn't even have to go back to the
true. True, true.
like that's the biggest question is
Uh,
what is he gonna do, right? So
yeah.
let's say Chark is probably the best wide receiver on the market right now. Like on the market.
That's yeah, that unfortunately, that is very true.
Like
I mean, it is.
PPR, I'm
It
just looking
is.
at his
Yeah.
I don't have points per game on here on the computer, but you just look at the end of the season, 9 points, okay. 15 points, 21 points, 2 points. It was a bad game there. 15 points, 8 points. Like he's not the best. He's not the most reliable guy, but he was getting
It's
mega
solid.
yards at the end of the season there. So his
Mhm.
only bad games were like, okay, week 17 against Chicago. They really didn't need him much in that one.
Yeah.
Week 15 against the Jets and week 12 against Buffalo. So the better cornerbacks in the league kind of do have a little bit more of effect on the lines as a whole. But DJ Chark is still a really good player. And if he goes somewhere to be the number 2, that could be very, very valuable. So
Mhm.
mid-second on DJ Chark, but then the rest of these guys, probably willing to spend a late second on Josh
Mhm.
Palmer,
Yep.
Allen Robinson. I'd still probably take a stab at that. The whole
I think I feel I'm off the Allen Robinson train. I think
now is your chance to get off if you're ever going to get off.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
is the time.
I mean, if you can get a second for Allen Robinson now, I think
Yeah,
I mean, even a late,
I
I
don't
think
think
you're
you
doing
can.
great.
But here's the
I
thing.
don't think you can either.
Here's the thing. The Rams were a shit show from day one. From
Yeah,
day one, they
yeah.
lost their entire offensive line. They lost Stafford. They lost everyone on this team at some point in time, like everyone on the team. Allen Robinson never had a chance to really show what was capable because, Stafford missed all of training camp with the elbow injury and then ended up missing the entire season with it too. So, like, he played like 4 or 5 games. In those games, Allen Robinson was a red zone monster for the team, so he just wasn't getting a ton of PPR targets, right?
Mhm.
So that was the biggest problem. And him and Stafford were just missing, right? So there is still potential with Allen Robinson. I think that he could definitely outproduce a late second, but Parker
Mhm.
Washington or Allen Robinson, probably if I'm trying to win, I'd probably go Allen Robinson, right? So
Yes, I agree with that. So,
um
um,
go ahead.
how are you feeling about, like, Donovan Peoples-Jones?
That
Like,
was
I
the
think he
last
had a
name I was
really
going to
good
bring up here, and then we were going
yes,
to jump on tight ends. But
yes.
yeah, DPJ, I think that he's the one where it's kind of close. I'd be willing to give
Mhm.
up a late second for him. The
Yeah.
problem is, one, we didn't see a lot of David Bell. Two, we
Yes.
didn't see a lot of. We don't know what Watson's preferences are going
Watson's
to
gonna
be.
be
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah. Yep.
I know, I get it. He started like 5 games with them at the end of the season, but
Mhm.
he didn't have any ability to practice with these guys most of the season because he was banned or he was suspended and everything. So like he missed a lot of training time. Amari Cooper's a better receiver. Like you saw that when Watson was going to Amari Cooper, they were doing much better in the games, but he just did
Mhm.
not feel comfortable with him for most of those games. So, you know, is Njoku going to take a ton of targets? I have no idea. So I think that I'd be willing to give a late second on him, but I'm just watching at that point,
Yep.
Like I'm not gonna commit much more than that if it's me. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on him. How are you feeling on him?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is gonna be pretty good this year, this coming
They could
year.
even draft a guy
Um,
though too, like in the second. That's the
yeah,
scary part with
that's the thing.
DPJ.
Yeah,
Like I just don't know if he's
yeah.
the solution that we kind of hope he's going to be.
Right, right.
No,
So,
it's
yeah, no, I
possible.
I agree. I think he would be a fun player, but I would do it into the second
Yeah.
if I was wanting to. Yeah.
All right. Tight ends. We'll talk on a few guys here that I think are probably worth seconds. If you're the problem with tight end is if you're not getting one of those top guys, you're not getting a
Yeah.
first for him, right? So then it's just kind of a crapshoot at that point. Like David Njoku, high second on him. I'd be willing to spend that. Dalton Schultz, I'm
Mhm.
off for now until we see his landing
Yeah.
spot.
Yep.
Cole Kmet, I actually think I'm off, and I was so high on Cole Kmet, but
Really?
yeah, the problem is I think that the Bears are going to bring in so many weapons that he's just going to get buried.
Yeah.
Like one, we don't know what Justin Fields can do through the air, and I believe that Justin Fields can develop through the
Mhm.
air,
I agree.
but I
I
think
agree.
that the Bears are going to be in the market for like a T Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, and a
I
JSN in
agree.
the draft. So it's
Yep.
like I
Yep.
think they're going to be trying to get both of these guys, and that's where it's going to get tough there. So let's say they bring in 2-3 receivers this offseason. Cole Kmet could get buried there, but there is potential. I think maybe a mid second, but it's just definitely a risk, right?
Right.
Um, Dawson Knox, how are we feeling on him?
I think I'm off the Knox train. I
Yeah,
think
he's
he's
too.
too
Yeah,
he's too inconsistent.
he's hit or
Like,
miss like hard, and
yes,
at a
all the
position
time.
where the more reliability you can get, that's just so tough on Dawson Knox.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
Trey McBride, I'd probably give a early, I'd be willing to spend an early second on him.
For Yeah, I was about to say that too. I think he's gonna be huge this year and in
Mm,
coming years. I really think he can be the PPR monster. Well,
People are still talking about Zach Ertz coming back and being a contributor. Like, dude, he's 33, coming off an ACL tear.
right. I'm
Like
I'm sure I'm sure he could contribute to the bench, but he's not
on a
going to
team,
contribute very
right?
much
On a team
on
where
on
Kyler's
a
out
bad
half the
team.
season,
Yes, at
like
least at least half the season,
Zach Ertz is
and
probably
then
going
you're
to get
trying to get him
cut.
acclimated. Yes,
Yeah, like
probably,
yeah. So
probably.
yeah, Dalton or Trey McBride definitely worth an early
Yep,
second in my opinion. Greg Dulcich
yep,
probably a late second. I'd be willing to
yeah,
spend on him.
yep, yep,
The biggest thing, and we touched on Sean Payton a little bit already, but he's never really like he did kind of. I guess with Jimmy Graham, he really featured him, but I don't think Greg
yeah.
Dulcich is that kind of athlete. Like he's a
No,
good
no, he's
athlete, don't get
not.
me wrong, but
Yes,
I just think that with the weapons available to Sean Payton, he's going to make Jerry Jeudy a freaking monster. First off, he's going to make him Michael Thomas essentially. Michael Thomas 2.0, maybe faster Michael
mhm.
Thomas. But
Yeah, mildly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I think Greg Dulcich will have value, but I just don't think he's
yep,
going to have top tier value.
I agree.
Unlike the next guy, Evan Ingram, I would be willing to spend the 201 on him. Like I like Evan
I
Ingram a
I I
lot.
agree.
I think that
I agree.
Jacksonville brings him back. And
Mhm,
even with
100%.
Calvin Ridley, I still believe
I don't
I think
yeah,
that helps Evan
yeah.
Ingram, right?
Yes, yep, it
Okay.
does, absolutely. absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah, I would spend the 201 on him in a heartbeat
Yeah,
if I could.
you can't ignore a guy that has a 50-point week in fantasy football, right?
It's
So at the
very
tight
hard
end
to ignore.
position.
Yes.
The interesting one here, Mike Gesicki,
Yes.
mid second, I'd be willing to spend on him.
Yes.
He's a free agent, so landing spot will be a little bit more critical. But when he signs with the Dallas Cowboys, it'll be a little interesting.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep
I
banging
think
that
you
till,
I know you
till the end of
I would
time.
feel more I would feel more comfortable with, like, a late second
Yeah, I
because
get that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If you can
he
get
is
him for
20.
that,
Yeah, yeah, he is older, he's 27.
true.
He's been mediocre,
Yep.
I would say that's
Yeah,
nice to say.
he's had flashes though. He has talent for
He
sure.
he has the talent, but he's never really been dominant like we wanted to see him.
Yep. Noah Fant, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's the one here I would really be interested in buying. I think
Yes,
you could
yeah,
probably get him for like a third or a late
yeah,
second. And,
yep,
like we talked about with Mac Jones, the offense was a nightmare. Hunter Henry a year ago had double-digit touchdowns. This year was terrible.
mhm,
Our
yep,
our weapons are still awful in New England, and Bill O'Brien has shown a propensity of going to the tight end in red zone
tight end,
situations. So
yep,
Mac Jones likes to go to the target. He likes to go to Hunter Henry in the red zone. Hunter Henry will be part of the game plan by Bill O'Brien. Hunter Henry is extremely cheap right now. I'm probably going to be targeting Hunter
mhm.
Henry everywhere possible this offseason because I think he's going to have a massive resurgence this year.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I mean, I can see Henry having, it's a double digit touchdowns again and really being an anchor to that offense.
Yeah. Chig Okonkwo, Isaiah Likely, these guys, I don't think you'll have to spend a second round on. If you can get them for a third, they're worth stashing, in my opinion. Um, Isaiah Likely, because if they don't bring back Mark Andrews for any reason, has shown some connection there. Like he can fill the Mark Andrews role, not
Mhm.
as well. Like Mark Andrews is a beast, but Isaiah Likely could be a lesser version of that, which would be a steal if you can get him for like a third.
Right.
If for whatever reason they moved on, and if Andrews gets injured again, you have a pretty good fill-in on your team.
Yes.
Chig
Yes.
Okonkwo is the one that I like a lot. I think that there's a lot of potential there. I
Mhm.
don't think Tennessee has so many holes that they're not going to be able to replace him very easily in this draft or
Yeah.
free agency because they're so broke. So that means that they're going to be rolling
Yeah.
with him for another year. They don't have many weapons there. Maybe they get a couple in the draft, but I think that there's a lot of upside for Chig there for a late
Mhm.
second, early third, definitely
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith, Daniel Bellinger, any of these guys, Jelani Woods, you'd be willing to spend a second on
I think Jelani Woods would the
just to
one out
get
of
him
that
locked
bunch.
up?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the question there is
Yes.
still unknown at
It
quarterback
is. It
and
is.
head coach. So scheme is
Yep.
going to be a question.
Yep.
But Jelani Woods has a lot of measurable talent there. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely somebody that you could grab for a late second. I don't think it'll take that for you though in a non-tight end premium.
No, it won't.
Dale and I are so
It
used to
won't.
running tight end premium leagues that it kind of warps our opinions on
It
tight ends.
really
So
does, and it is not
um,
and it's and that's not a fun place to be.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not.
definitely. If you're relying on someone like Jelani Woods, so no, I think
Yes.
if you can get Jelani Woods, it might only cost you a third. So take tight ends
Yeah.
with a grain of salt because we're so used to playing tight end premium that it's hard to not see these guys as
Right.
worth at least something. so,
Right.
so
Right.
it's a little bit there, but try and sell low on these or like buy low on these guys if you can.
Yes.
But these are who I'd be roughly looking at with those second rounders
Right.
if you were trying to buy some
And
players
then
there.
and then I think the last guy to look at is Taysom Hill. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, he's only
He's
32.
retiring soon. Come on.
I know. I know. I know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nobody else really on this list.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess I'll throw out one other name, Jake Ferguson, with Dallas. I think he was a
Mhm.
rookie this year.
Yeah, he
Um,
was.
he's slightly interesting. I don't think you have to spend a second round for him at all. Like
Mm-mm.
he's a fourth
No.
or later pick. But
Yep.
he's just someone that if, for example, they move on from Dalton Schultz, which I'm fairly confident they will, because he screwed them out of a playoff game, so he's going to take a bullet for Jerry Jones. So when they move on from Dalton Schultz, it's not guaranteed that they bring someone else in. So if they don't, Jake Ferguson is mildly interesting based on the hype that he had last preseason and offseason. So yeah, just a name to throw out there for you guys, a little freebie there at the end.
Yep.
That said, Dale, anybody else you wanted to mention here?
Nope.
Any other thoughts on the second rounders?
Well, I've already shared some of my thoughts, but yeah, I think the whole Stetson Bennett one is interesting, but that's beside the point. But
I mean, who would you rather have, Mike Gesicki or Stetson Bennett?
Mike Gesicki, I do not
Hater,
want Stetson
hater
Bennett near
alert,
me.
hater.
Hey, I know, hater right here, man. Don't worry.
All right. So that said, thank you guys for listening. Happy to break down what our draft picks are for you. You can find us over on Twitter again at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. We're going to have more content. Next week, we're actually going to be breaking down a super flex tight end premium startup draft. And it was an actual draft. So, no mocks, nothing like that. But we're going to start going through the first few rounds of that next week. So we can kind of see some of the trends of an early startup draft for you guys that are starting to prep for yours this offseason. Or if you're jumping in any now, there was a lot of surprising results in it. So I think it'd be pretty useful to go through that with you guys next week. So make sure you come back next week and hear that. And hopefully we'll have a guest on the podcast, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But that said, thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a good night.